Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to some Canadian Grand Prix race reaction. I have a feeling I know what's going to be the top topic and is probably going to dominate this. Now, I am going to say right from the off, I am going to try my best to stay cool. I am going to try and try my best to stay calm. But as people know, I tend to get a bit ranty at times. So I will say, if the odd swear word slips out, massive apologies, especially if there are any young people watching or you're watching with your kids. I do apologise, but it's a very emotional sport and everyone's a bit hyped up, and I probably should have waited another hour before going live, but where's the fun in that? We want to talk about this and get this off our chest. I'm going to be joined by Jonty and Dan in just a minute, who I'm sure are equally as happy as I am. But we're going to start by having a look at the race result. The chat look well up for this one. Lewis Hamilton won the Canadian Grand Prix from Sebastian Vettel, who was awarded a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and failing to rejoin safely. Charles Leclerc finished third with Valtteri Bottas in fourth for Mercedes. Long way back, actually, I've got to say, for Bottas. Max Verstappen, I personally think, we'll talk about him a bit later, did quite well to recover to fifth place. Really good day for Renault, though. Really good weekend. Sixth for Ricciardo and seventh for Nico Hülkenberg. Pierre Gasly, P8. I might have my say on him a little bit later as well. Very disappointed, but great drive from, of course, Prince Lance of Stroll, P9. Daniel Kvyat is 10th for Toro Rosso. He drives for Toro Rosso, Sean. More points for them. Carlos Sainz in 11th for McLaren. Sergio Perez, 12th for Racing Point. 13th for Giovinazzi. 14th for Romain Grosjean. Kimi Raikkonen down in 15th. George Russell drove well again in 16th place to not only finish well ahead of his teammate, but pretty much destroy him today, if we're being perfectly honest. Kevin Magnussen, I do want to talk about him briefly later, if I can get to him. He was 17th, Kubica obviously 18th. And then two retirements from the race. Alexander Albon and Lando Norris. Right. Deep breath. Good evening, Jonty. 12 months ago, we sat here doing the Canadian Grand Prix race reaction and we struggled to fill 35 minutes. Don't think we're going to have that problem tonight.
No. We had a fair few issues, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, Giovinazzi spun. I mean, what else do you need? Yeah, we'll get on to that. I'm gonna bring Dan in because I think we're going to need to crack on with this one, mate. Good evening, Dan. How was that for you? Did you enjoy? Before we get onto that, did you enjoy the race as a whole?
Good evening, everyone. I did, to be honest with you, and it was a million times better than last year, so that's a tick. But I'll let you crack on with this one because this is going to be juicy.
Yeah. I really don't know where to start. I will say this. I am so flipping pleased I did not do a watch along because that would have been demonetised in a heartbeat. So Sebastian Vettel was on for victory, drove really well. Great fight, I have to say. Let's forget the penalty for a second. Fantastic to see. Two world champions at the front of the field, going toe to toe, pushing hard, no tyre management, none of that rubbish. Absolutely racing as they should be. A second between them towards the end of that race. Vettel, has to be said, makes a mistake, runs wide at turn 4, comes back onto the track. The stewards feel in an unsafe manner. Now, first of all, on that, he did make a mistake, Jonty, again, under pressure. So we can't shy away from that before we jump into the next part.
Yeah, that's true. You know, there's no getting away from that. But people do make mistakes. You know, we've seen other mistakes this weekend from some of the top people. It's what happened afterwards.
Yeah. 5-second penalty is absolute, sod it, bullshit. The biggest load of rubbish, not the biggest, I've seen worse. I've seen worse penalties given in Formula 1, haven't we, Jonty? Over the years, there have been plenty worse than this. But absolutely ridiculous. Sebastian Vettel, I can't quite understand what the hell he is supposed to do in that situation. He's going across the track, across the grass. Yes, he's made the mistake. Fair enough, he's made the mistake under pressure, but he's gone across the grass. He's sliding. He's not got control of his car in that situation. He doesn't steer into Lewis Hamilton. The only time he's steering right is to correct his car so he doesn't go straight into the wall and probably wipe Hamilton out. And then at the point where Hamilton comes alongside him, he's steering straight on. His wheel isn't even turning right. Hamilton, I can't put the blame at Hamilton's door. He doesn't have to go for that gap, but the wall is there at the end of the day. And if that happens in Bahrain, there's no accident then. There's no fuss. There's probably not a penalty. But it's crap. It's utter crap. These are two of the best drivers in the world, possibly the two best drivers on the grid. And they are more than capable in that situation of not crashing, and they didn't crash. I don't blame Lewis Hamilton. The booing on the podium, by the way, was ridiculous. That is not his fault. The stewards should be the ones booed. And I would say, Jonty, that the booing was probably because of the stewards rather than Lewis Hamilton. But that's everyone's entitled to their opinion. Maybe you two are going to surprise me, but that is not a penalty all day long for me.
Well, when you've got, from what I've seen on Twitter, dozens and dozens of racing drivers from not just F1, various other series as well, saying that that's never a penalty. It tells you everything you need to know. This goes back to a problem we have had before. The driver stewards. It needs to be someone reliable, and it needs to be someone relevant. Because they're the ones who give the extra input to the existing stewards about whether it's going to be a penalty or not, especially when it comes to things with car control. The driver steward for this race is Emmanuel Pirot, who raced for 3 years from 1989 to 1991 for nothing teams. I'm sorry, why is he even being listened to? That's ridiculous. That's the biggest problem with all of this that I can see, is because people are making decisions who literally have no idea what they're talking about.
There are obviously those in the F1 community who think the penalty's fair and that rules are rules. I think there is an issue with the way the rule is written. They were discussing it on Sky just before we went live, and I tend to agree with what they were saying. That needs to be looked at as a rule. So, rules are rules, fair enough, blah, blah. So I understand there are differences of opinion, but when you look on Twitter, Dan, and you see, as Jonty said there, ex-drivers and the majority of the fan base all saying, whoa, hang on a minute, that's crap. Which camp do you fall into, mate? Do you think it was the right decision?
No, I don't.
I
don't. Yeah. Look, I think, what I 100% agree with what both of you just said. But I think what makes it even worse for me is it was looking to be a really good race. Hamilton wasn't as good in the first stint, but as soon as he got those hard tyres on, it seemed to be like the race was coming to him. He had the pace. It looked like he was going to get the victory anyway. We then get the penalty. They could choose to do it after the race, and I suppose then we'd have a different conversation about, it's unfair that we're waiting all these hours to find a decision. But I just feel that we could have had a real race of the ages. But for the last 20 laps or so, what made it even worse is we all had to sort of sit here just utter perplexed at the decision, whilst there's no real racing going on, because Hamilton had no need to overtake Vettel whatsoever. He could have, but what's the point? He's only going to risk losing a almost certain victory. So I think that made it even worse that we had to sit through that. I don't want to, go over and over what you guys just said, but it really just is so bizarre. And Ferrari, I think, deserved it today. I really do feel that.
The win, not the penalty. Just clarify that, because the comment section would be fun if you say that one, mate.
Yeah. Thank you, mate. Thank you.
I think I'm gonna try and stay. I'm gonna put my let's try and sit on the fence for a second head on. It won't. I can promise you it won't be on for long. Going to what you were saying there, Dan, the stewards have to make a decision based on the rule book. They've looked at that. They felt it was a penalty. Unfortunately, in that situation, they can't. Or not unfortunately, they can't say it's going to be a great race. Let's leave it. So I get the frustration behind that, and it did rob us of a win and a great fight. And I do think that Lewis Hamilton, if Vettel didn't have that penalty, would have gone for it. He would have gone for the move at some point. Whether Vettel would have then gone, screw it, I'm getting a penalty anyway, let's make this very, very difficult for him, I don't know. But I don't know. The rule, like I say, I'm just glad Jonty wasn't doing a watch along. That's all I can say at the minute. I was so angry. It's not. What do you say? I don't even know what to say other than just sit here screaming and shouting and kicking off about it. I mean, nothing's going to change. They can't appeal the decision. I think as the rules are written, you can sort of understand it, but I just refuse to fall on the side that that's a penalty. I think Lewis Hamilton's reactions after the race and the way he was dealing with Sebastian Vettel says that even he was a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's only from Andrew Benson, so not 100% reliable. We already know that. But the stewards are quoted as saying they do have a right to an appeal. Now, we know the rulebook says that time penalties administered during the race can't be changed, but they are quoted as saying that they can appeal. That could be wrong. It could change because, like I said, it's Benson saying it. So there is a little slither of hope there. The point is, I mean, there is some elements of Australia 94 to this. Because Hamilton could see he's gone off and he's made the dive. He's going, oh, this is my chance. And dive straight at it, the same way as Hill did with Schumacher. And it didn't end up quite as badly, but it could have done. Maybe needed to be a little bit calmer. And there's also a point that lots of people are saying, oh, but it's leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Well, coming into that sector, Hamilton was 6 or 7 tenths behind, and when they come out of it, he was 1 tenth behind. So Hamilton certainly gained half a second. So it's not really a great argument for that either. There's a lot of both sides on this, and I'm trying to look at it as completely openly as possible, but it's just horrendously unfair on Vettel. There is literally nothing he could do. I've seen people saying, well, he should have backed off and braked. He was on the grass. Pressing his brake pedal would have done literally nothing, and then when he hit the track, there would have been sudden grip and he'd have been sideways across it. If he'd have tried to steer a bit more left whilst on the grass, he would have gone sideways and would have been across the track. There would have been contact. Any other option that Vettel's got, he's sideways across the track, blocking it, probably causing a red flag with 2 cars in pieces all over the place. He did the only thing he could. If he had braked, he would have been sideways, and Lewis would have been straight into the back of him. People need to think a bit more when they try and say these things.
Emotions are high after the race, aren't they? Fans and drivers alike. It's different. I'm sat doing a reaction and just trying not to drop the F-bomb every 30 seconds because I quite easily could. It's not the same as sort of people saying he's come back on track and he's forced Lewis. It's not the same as that's not what he's done. He's come back on the track and he's sideways as he's coming back on. He's correcting his car. At that point, he's just trying to stop himself going in the wall. He's not looking in his mirror going, oh God, where's Lewis? Let's run him into the wall. That's not what's happened in that situation at all. I've seen a couple in chat saying that he's deliberately tried to run him out of road. He hasn't. There's no way that's deliberate from him. He's made the mistake, so Vettel has got to take a massive portion for that, and he deserves the flack he gets for making that mistake. But what happened afterwards, there's nothing he can do in that situation. Completely agree with you, Jonty. I'm just trying not to go off on a rant again, Dan. I'm going to pass to you, mate, and let you have another word on this while I get a mouthful of water.
We're all going to need it tonight, aren't we? But yeah, I do agree with you. I don't know how there wasn't contact, to be honest with you. When he first went off onto the grass, I was squealing at the TV thinking, oh my God, they've both taken each other out. But to those people saying that, Vettel deliberately tried to cause a crash, Ferrari, this was their best chance this weekend. And I think strategically, they were almost inch perfect, which is a very bizarre thing to say about Ferrari. But I don't think the team actually did anything wrong this weekend. So there's no way I think Vettel's going to throw away a win like that. Not when he's controlling it so easily. And like you've both said, the reaction of Hamilton, of even the commentators, everyone in the know seems to agree it shouldn't have been a penalty. So just almost looping back to what Jonty said earlier, the stewards on this one, I really don't see how they've come to this decision. Yes, I understand it's the lightest penalty they could give other than a reprimand, but even so, we should be racing. It's not like Hamilton's dropped miles back. If Hamilton had taken, some front wing damage or had dropped 5 or 6 seconds behind, then maybe I might be a little bit more lenient towards a penalty. But the fact is he was still right there. We still had a race on our hands and it was robbed. And that's, for me, where it comes under the fact that it was a bit of a waste of time penalty and shouldn't have happened at all. And I'm really trying hard to hold my tongue.
Didn't your heart just sink when that came up on screen?
Yeah, man.
It really did, didn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say even the under investigation thing, because we always see little incidents of, drivers getting a little bit close. And I thought, under investigation, it'll be fine, surely. So I think most of us were quite stunned when, I think even Crofty was a bit stunned when they said, oh, hang on a second, 5-second penalty. So this won't be forgotten, this one. And we've spoken before about setting a precedent, but this is a real shaky one from the stewards.
What about Perez and Grosjean, Jonty? Perez and Grosjean actually touch wheels, and Grosjean ends up off the track. Sorry, Dan, to bring Grosjean into this.
That's cool.
But yeah, that's all right. By the way, that is not a penalty. There is no way Perez and Grosjean is a penalty, but Grosjean is running off the track by Perez effectively because they bang wheels and he's got to get out of it because if he stays on that line, Perez is going to squeeze him off. Yes, it's Perez's corner. No, I don't think it's a penalty, but is it different because there's tarmac on the outside? It shouldn't be, but is it?
From a no, it shouldn't be, but... Well, did Grosjean leave the track? I think he kept his inside wheels on.
Did he? No, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I just saw that pitch come up on screen then and I thought, oh, the other racing point.
But it's true, he made contact, but that really was just wheel-to-wheel racing. It's difficult to draw conclusions to that one.
Yeah.
The one people have been mentioning was with Danny Rick in 2016.
Oh, is that the one I sent you the rant about the other day that I had on Facebook before I had the channel?
Luce did exactly the same thing to Ricciardo. It really is exactly the same thing. The only difference is one's Monaco, one's Canada. And there was no penalty there.
I'd forgotten about that. Even though I said, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, but we see this... I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm trying to look at it from both sides of the argument, but this is the thing of the reaction streams. They are just me being hot-headed and just going straight off what we've just watched. The debrief tomorrow will be a bit more balanced, and I'll look at every single angle, but I'm finding it very difficult to look at the other side of the argument. I get what people are saying. I understand, these are the rules. We want consistency from the stewards. Then, unfortunately, there are going to be some decisions we like and some that we don't. So, yeah, kind of looking at it from that angle, when I look at the replays, I can see why the stewards made their decision, but I do not agree with it in the slightest. I think that's the best way of me to... The only way I can get anywhere near the fence, to be honest, Jonty. That's about as close as I can get.
There's just another little twist to this that's come up. Leclerc was not informed of Vettel's penalty by the team during the race.
Okay.
Now, that goes back to a thing that's been going on all year about Ferrari screwing over Leclerc in favour of Vettel. Absolutely. If Leclerc had known about that, he would have been banzaiing every lap to the end to take that second spot. That's very, very crappy by the team, in my opinion at least.
That's interesting. Because he was closing in, wasn't he? Was Leclerc? He was. I mean, Crofty can't maths when he's live in commentary. That's for sure. But what was he? 4 points. So he's 1 point. So he's a second off Vettel in the end. That's interesting. That is an interesting one because he could have nicked that one. I don't know what else to say on this, Dan. I really don't. I'm not going to get on the fence on this, and I'm not going to calm down on it either because I just think. As I said at the start, we've got Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, 9 world championships between them, going hammer and toe. They're just absolutely at it at the front of the field. Forget tyre management, forget fuel, forget power units. Push, push, push. Hamilton's getting closer. It's all getting nice and tense. It's turning into an absolute classic, and it was a decent race up to that point. It's becoming a classic. We're about to see what we all want to see, and that is the best drivers going wheel to wheel. Vettel makes a mistake. Stupid penalty.
Yeah, and there's no malice involved either. It's not like he tried to put him in the wall. And I think what makes it even worse is that if you look away from this event, the rest of the race, the midfield was brilliant once again today, but that's all going to be completely forgotten because of this incident, which is going to, I think, overhang the next couple of races because there's going to be keen eyes on the stewards once again, more focus on Ferrari. It just seems so unnecessary, and it was looking so good. Just up to that incident.
If nothing else, it gave us a hell of a lot of entertainment once the flag had dropped. For people asking, I have no idea why Vettel stopped at the start of the pit lane and began pushing his car back. I haven't heard anything about that. But it was great seeing him just storm off and go somewhere else. It was really reality TV type stuff. It was probably wrong of him to do it, but it made for some very good entertainment. And then switching the boards at the end, that was great.
if his PR people or management or whoever chased him down hadn't have got him and convinced him to go to that podium, I don't think. If it was up to him, he would not have stood on that podium today. But the problem is then he's in even more trouble, isn't he? So, you don't talk to, you've got to, as part of the rules, you've got to be on the podium unless obviously extreme circumstances. But I wouldn't have stood on that podium. I sat here, and I know I shouldn't, but I sat here going, don't go, Seb. Don't do it. I wouldn't. Screw him. So yeah, that's why you're not a racing driver, Sean, because if you were on track, you probably would have put somebody in the wall in anger, or yourself in the wall. I'm not good on F1 games. Usually when I get a penalty, I end up in the wall somewhere because I've got angry, and then I'm like, screw it, I don't need my wheels. And that's as far as I go. So that's why I'm not a racing driver and just a fan of the sport. And that's the thing. Fans are mad. They're annoyed. This is going to rumble on now and all the way until France, which is absolutely fine. People are entitled to their opinions. It's a great debate, but you could hear the fan reaction, Dan. They were booing. They weren't booing Hamilton. I believe that, and I think the Canadian fans and most F1 fans understand the sport, and they know what they're watching. They were booing stewards. They were booing the decision, but the fans are so angry, and this is a big backlash at the FIA and the stewards, and I do wonder if the FIA might come out and say, because they've done it before. I think this season or last season they've come out before and sort of gone, on reflection, maybe it was a little bit harsh, just to try and calm people down. But I feel like this is one of those situations where if they come out and say, it was maybe a bit harsh, everyone's just going to kick off big time even more and demand that win's been reinstated. But do you think they'll appeal, Dan, if Jonty's right and that is, or if Andrew Benson is right and that's something they can do?
I think they will. And also, booing should never be in Formula One. And I think actually, considering everything Sebastian had gone through, that was so mature of him to respond to the crowd like that when Hamilton was being booed. That was actually really great to see. And like I said, considering what he had just gone through, that was, I did like that from Seb. I rated that a lot. But going back to the penalty, I think if they have a chance to appeal it, they will. And I think it was this season where they issued an apology. I can't remember what it was for. I know what you're on about there. And I have this funny feeling that they will, because already, usually after a race, you might have a couple of days before backlash starts to really come out in a serious way. But nope, not this time. It's instantly there. It's instantly there. And at first I thought, it's probably be a bit 50-50. But looking about now, it seems definitely skewed definitely towards the side of disagreeing with the penalty. And I think, if a statement's not made, I think to be honest, many fans would be disappointed, because this is an error in judgment. And if they put their hands up, it's not going to make a fat lot of difference. And I think they will never ever change a decision. In my opinion, I don't think they would ever do that. But I still think just an apology is something. And for some fans, that'd just be a nice little way to say thank you for owning up to it in a sense. But I don't think it'll be changed as much as we'd all love it to.
If they appeal, Jonty, I'll put you right on the spot now. Do you think the stewards will overturn it? Or do you think they're going to have to leave it because it might even cause even more of a kickoff?
As far as I understand it, they can't appeal.
I don't think they can.
If Benson's right and they do appeal, they wouldn't be able to. It would just cause such hassle.
It would throw into precedent as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would throw into question every single result where there has been any time penalty that's changed his position for any points.
Thank you, everybody, for the super chats that are flying in tonight. I'll try and read some that are related to this, and any others that have come in that are related to something else in the race I will get back to. But Anthony Bauer says, I think we can all agree that Seb was robbed. Thank you very much for your contribution, mate. Andras says, the stewards need a hot spiky iron thing inserted. A hot spiky iron thing, that's painful. We should apply Hanlon's razor to the decision. We know from experience that they only employ the least competent people they can find to be stewards, says Suffering Addict. And he follows that one up with, by the way, F1 TV didn't work again. Now we know what the stewards are doing when there isn't a race. They work as developers for F1 TV. Sad times for F1. I might touch on F1 TV later. Max says, what a joke, F1 is dying. Absolute injustice. Olaf has said, by the way, did he have to push his car back to the weighbridge after the race? I think he had. No. He was supposed to go to the end of the pit lane to part Ferme, but then he pushed it back to the weighbridge, I think. So and then went to get himself weighed. Rhetorical resources. Seb telling the crowd not to boo Lewis made me feel better. That penalty made an amazing race. A steaming pile of rubbish. And Tim Pont says, "Hey guys, what do you think about a mandatory fan debrief by stewards on YouTube, styled like how Mercedes do on strategy?" I'll tell you what, we'll go with those last 2 points. First of all, rhetorical resources said that Seb telling the crowd not to boo Lewis made me feel better. There is so much respect between them two, isn't there, Jonty? There really is. And I think that's great to see. There is also that rivalry and that tension between them. You could see it in the cool-down room. But there is also that massive respect there. And you've got to give kudos to Sebastian for... He could have kicked off on the podium, but he said, look, don't boo him. It's not his fault.
Can I throw another point in this? Plot twist.
Oh, God. I got a bed. Stop it.
Chris Medland, so a far more reliable source than Andrew Benson, whispers of a few questions from the FIA to Merck about Hamilton's car in Parc Ferme. Just a few minutes ago. Now, if anything happens there, I tell you now, that is the FIA thinking, we've got this one wrong. How can we underhandedly turn it around? I really hope they don't, because the shitstorm that would ensue from that would be colossal.
It's times like this I really need to get the EastEnders theme on the streams. When Jonty comes in with his tweets and I just put the duffs in. We'll keep an eye on that on Twitter to see what happens, and obviously that'll be in the debrief tomorrow. But just back on that respect thing, Jonty, it is good to see between the two of them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very good. And even I was thinking when I saw a few tweets saying, now, come on, Lewis was the first one on the radio calling for it, but as Moses has pointed out, so would Seb, so would any driver. In the position they're in, of course they're going to call for it to be looked at. It should be down to the team and the stewards to say, oh no, we've seen it from this way. It's not quite. Obviously it's going to look really, really bad to Lewis, and he's going to call for it.
What about that? Sorry, that other question. I was looking at a couple of other super chats coming in, but the other one there was about a mandatory fan debrief by stewards on YouTube. That's something I quite like to see, to be honest. Just them sort of come out and say, here's why we made this decision. A bit like that. You can remember when the Halo was first announced and everyone kicked off, and they kind of went, right, we'll have a press conference and explain why we've come to this decision. It'd be kind of cool to see that for some of the big, not the obvious decisions, but some of the bigger decisions like this. Do you reckon, Dan?
Yeah.
It'd be great, but could you really see it happening?
No.
Not for a while, anyway. That's for sure. With this generation of stewards, I don't see that happening.
But other things did happen in the race. Can I bring one up?
If you want. I mean, yeah, of course you can. Yeah, go for it.
Norris.
Yes, that was weird.
Great to see him racing, getting past Verstappen. I was so hyped for the McLarens there. It's great to see him coming back. But what the hell? Sorry, mate, your brake has melted your suspension. What?
That was bizarre. That I looked at when I tweeted that. Anyone who's surprised we just suddenly moved on. I think we've all run out of things to say without just sitting here slagging off the FIA for another 40 minutes. But we'll look at the rest of the race. We might even touch on this again at the end. But yeah, Lando Norris. I thought he'd hit the wall. Everyone thought he'd hit the wall on the exit on sort of the wall of champions coming out of that final chicane. And as it turns out, his brakes melted. I shouldn't laugh, but it's such a I mean, they said brakes were Canada was tough on brakes, but that's ridiculous for it to melt his suspension like that, and his wheel just snapped off. I think there's been a picture go around a few times now on the slideshow on screen. So, yeah, an odd one for Lando Norris. But I agree, that fight with Verstappen was good stuff. I really, really enjoyed that. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do what we usually do before sort of going on to other stuff. We'll kind of quickly run through the order and who did what. I do want to say we've sort of a little bit on Charles Leclerc because we have kind of covered quite a bit, and Valtteri Bottas. We have covered Mercedes and Ferrari a lot so far in the stream. We've been going 34 minutes and it's all been that penalty decision. So Charles Leclerc didn't have the pace to challenge the front runners today, which was a bit of a surprise because I thought he'd be able to take it to them on race pace. And Valtteri Bottas, Jonty, 51 seconds off his teammate in the lead.
Yeah. I don't want to sound too harsh on him, but that's a disgraceful performance.
He got stuck behind Hulkenberg early on, didn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, at other closer tracks, less power-related tracks, we've seen midfield cars closer to the leaders than that. He did have an extra stop for fastest lap, but that's only 20 seconds, so he's still over half a minute behind. No, that's not good enough.
Do you think, and I'm going to, this isn't just Bottas, by the way, before anyone starts on the Sean hates Bottas BS. This goes for Charles Leclerc, Bottas, the Red Bulls as well. Are they victims today of what happens when Vettel and Hamilton go all out and push with no holds barred?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. I mean, Bottas, screwed his weekend in Q3, didn't he? I mean, that was his big mistake. But I think just the pace of the Renaults, I don't think anyone expected that. And again, they weren't race contenders, but the fact that Ricciardo and Hülkenberg kept Bottas behind for so long, I did not expect that. And on a arguably power circuit, the Renault engine, even in the McLaren, was doing quite a good job, actually, which I don't think anyone was expecting. Yes, Hamilton and Vettel were almost perfect, almost perfect. But no, I think I agree with you both that Leclerc was about 10 seconds off for most of the race. Did get screwed a little bit by strategy, not by Ferrari so much this time, but just the fact there wasn't a gap. But even so, that was a big margin. And I think both drivers, Hamilton and Vettel, that is, showed their experience today. But I don't think it was the Vettel and Hamilton effect, which was why they were both so far in front. If that makes sense, maybe not.
No, it makes more sense than what I said, because you've put logic to it. You've said that he had an extra pit stop, so that accounts for sort of 18, 20 seconds of that. And yeah, Leclerc was a little bit screwed. Personally, I think by Ferrari. I think, no, not screwed by Ferrari. Ferrari got him out front and obviously thought, let's hope for a safety car. I think that's what they were trying for in that instance. So we don't know. They might have gone, oh, God, second driver. Yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting about him. They did enough with Kimi. But I'll tell you what, we'll throw Renault into this because their races are all kind of relevant to each other if we include Verstappen in there too. Jonty, Daniel Ricciardo's defending against Valtteri Bottas got a few people going, oh, that was a bit tight. Do you think that was fair? He was sort of trying to break the toe and he was making a late move. Do you think that was fair and just good hard racing?
I'm a bit old school on that one. I saw nothing wrong with it whatsoever. They were nowhere near a braking zone. It's just trying to break the toe, trying to put him off. We've seen that time and time again. Yeah, that incident you just mentioned, I think Bottas he was going to go one way at the same time Danny Rick was going to move that way. So that was a bit iffy, but there was a couple of other times when he was, like I say, just trying to break the toe. And we've seen it lots of times before. You can't be too severe with it, like we saw with Hamilton and someone I can't remember from years ago, where they were sort of weaving the entire width of the pit straight.
Is it Hill and Schumacher in Canada?
Them in Canada, and it was definitely Lewis and someone in Malaysia, I think. But, it's all about when they get to that braking zone where people really watch how many moves are made.
Yeah, I think there are a couple that were a little bit. Sort of one in particular is his last one before Bottas got past that was a little bit borderline, I would say. But I agree. I don't think really that needs to be penalised. But then you know what the stewards are like. They like to penalise anything now. So maybe he would have got slapped with a penalty. Don't start, Sean. Pack it in. But yeah, I think Renault can be really pleased, not just with the day, but the whole weekend. I mean, all right, Hülkenberg was a little bit off his teammate, and okay, Ricciardo benefited from Verstappen and Bottas's woes, if you like, but 6th and 7th in the race, 4th on the grid for Ricciardo in qualifying, I think 7th, was it, for Hülkenberg? In the end, he does like to start in 7th place, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was. So I think they can be happy with that, Dan, and they needed that this weekend to really kickstart their season because they were nowhere before this, really.
Yeah, chuffed for them this weekend. I mean, this season's just looked so up and down. I mean, I think it was Baku where they were the second worst car. The only car behind them was Williams. And now we show up to Canada and they're fending off a Mercedes for half a race. I think this season is going to be an up and down one all year for those guys. But 6th and 7th, that is awesome. And that's the boost the team needed after shaky reliability this season, and it looked like Hülkenberg may have had an issue in the race, but I just, to be honest with you, I love seeing Daniel Ricciardo almost like he was back in his Red Bull days, nice and racy. Yes, it was a bit borderline. I'm happy to say that, but his confidence in the car seems to be building every single weekend. And I think as the season goes on, that's only going to continue. And yeah, perhaps this was his best sniff at a podium. Didn't quite have the pace today, Renault. And to be honest, I think my predictions I made in the off-season saying that Renault would be up there are quite a bit off this year. But no, a brilliant points haul for the team. Lucked out a little bit that Norris had his issue early on. He potentially could have been in the mix as well. But no, great job from Renault this weekend. That's exactly what they needed.
Yeah, that can't really. I don't think there's anything negative in Hulkenberg in the end. Only half a second off of Ricciardo. So Hulkenberg had a really good day. 16.2 actually his last lap to Ricciardo's 17.4. Ricciardo was really scrapping it. I enjoyed watching both the Renaults today. It was good to see Max Verstappen. We've got to talk about Max from what was in the end P9 to P5. Strategy absolutely spot on. Jonty ran those hards very nicely. Some good squabbling as well. It would have been nice to see him and Bottas go wheel to wheel. I'd have quite enjoyed that one. But I think he can be. Obviously, he'll want to be on the podium. And if he'd have come into this weekend, he'd been aiming for a podium. But given how qualifying went and how unlucky he was after the Magnussen crash, huge. He's got to get a lot of credit for fifth place, and he should be happy with that. He won't be because it's Max Verstappen. He'll want to be winning every race, of course, but fifth place isn't a bad recovery.
No, I'd say it's pretty good. And again, he got caught, got held behind the Renaults and the McLaren for quite a while, on the hard tyre. So he's done a very good job. And like you mentioned before, when you've got Vettel and Lewis disappearing into the distance, dragging along a couple with them with the extra bits of DRS and free air, there's not a lot else he can do. I think that was the best he could have hoped for.
Yeah, I've not much to say on Red Bull in terms of Verstappen. I think he drove well, made the strategy work, and got himself into probably the best position he could. Like I said, 6 seconds off Bottas in the end. So he did. I know Bottas had that extra stop for the to go for fastest lap, but I just think that Bottas and the Ferraris and Hamilton were just out of reach for him today. So it's a shame he couldn't get in that mix. It would have been nice, but again, decent for him. Pierre Gasly, though. Sorry, Pierre Gasly fans. Not good enough again from him today. I'm sorry. Lance Stroll, he spent ages behind Lance Stroll and not on the back of Lance Stroll. 2.8 seconds consistently behind Lance Stroll during that race. I was watching the timing screens. That's not good enough from Pierre Gasly. I know the Racing Point was on different strategy, but his tyres were older than Gasly's, Jonty. He's got the faster car. He should have been on the back of Stroll, passed, and then chasing after those ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just Dan. I don't know what to say about him because I like Pierre Gasly. A lot of people like Pierre Gasly. He's a nice guy, but he's under pressure this season, and that pressure is going to start mounting. And he needs to be. He should be, in my opinion, probably sixth today. He should be behind Max Verstappen, but he's just not delivering at the moment. He's not quick enough, and he showed it again today.
Yeah, and this was his chance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Qualifying in front of Verstappen in the first stint was comfortably ahead of Verstappen. And yet the strategy was fine. Okay, yes, he started on the softs, and that probably wasn't the optimal strategy. But even so, he should be close to Verstappen at the end. He should be close to the Renaults. But getting stuck behind Lance Stroll, who even the Racing Point wasn't a particularly good car this weekend. I agree with you both. Not good enough from Gasly. And, we've seen rumours and question marks at the moment. And while I don't believe them, and I think Gasly will be here to stay, it's not ideal. And he needs to be doing better.
I think he'll see out the season, but unless he picks it, I'm not going to say too much because I've got videos coming up after Canada, my Under Pressure series, which I do after the first third of the season. But I think he'll see out the season. But if he doesn't step up and quickly, they will look elsewhere. I fully expect that. And I agree. He's a nice guy. He's a good driver. He's not performing at Red Bull, but he's a good driver. He showed that at Toro Rosso. He's shown that in other categories. But he's got to step up now. But I've got to say, and I'm going to sit here, chest out, really proud, happy moments, something good to talk about. Lance Stroll, P9. What a recovery, Jonty, from the worst driver on the grid in many people's eyes. I am absolutely chuffed for him at his home Grand Prix and Racing Point as well at their home Grand Prix, because after qualifying, it all looks a little bit lost.
I think Stroll did a brilliant race. very, very impressive considering how poor he was in qualifying.
17th, I think he started.
Yeah, that's a really, really impressive performance. I couldn't believe it when, obviously on the alternate strategy, starting on the hard tyre, finally came in for his stop, came out and was still in the points. I was like, what? How has he done that?
That's what because he was staying out, and I thought, he's doing well, he's in the points, but he's got a pit, he's going to fall back down. And then when he came out in 10th, I thought, just like you, I was like, good lad. No, I did not expect that to happen at all. So, great drive from him. We'll get to driver of the day in a minute, but I think he's probably going to get a very good few votes. I know Sebastian Vettel won the official one. I don't know how much of that was out of sympathy. I think Vettel drove very well today, obviously, apart from the mistake, which ultimately then led to the rubbish penalty. Again, I'm not going to get back to that one. Big shout out as well for Daniel Kvyat. Dan, more points, or a point for him. Toro Rosso just quite happy out there, getting on with it and picking up the points where they can. And he's one of the drivers this season who I think has surprised a lot of people, like a new man.
Yeah, another great job from him. I'm going to be honest. I didn't really see him for a lot of the race, to be totally. He was in that sort of, just outside the top 10 battle, which, to be honest, a little gripe at the producers this year. I don't think they focused enough on the midfield. No. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Brilliant move at the end on Sainz into turn 1. That was really great to see. I was almost certain there was going to be contact. There wasn't. But yeah, that consistency's really shown with Kvyat, and he's putting himself in a good light for next season for potential moves, which is exactly what he needs to be doing.
Excellent point by Sandro in chat. Stroll was on the old Mercedes power unit as well because it blew up in practice, the new one. So he was on the older spec and still managed to make his way through the field. So extra kudos for Stroll. Definitely. I think both of those can be very happy with the day. Stroll certainly, home Grand Prix as well. It would have been nice, obviously, to see him a little bit higher up, or the Racing Point is a little bit higher up, because I've got quite a soft spot for that team. I think a lot of people have. They are ex-Jordan, well, they're ex-everything, aren't they? They've been just about everybody on the grid at some point. So, yeah, I'm really happy for them. But not much else, unless am I missing something in that top 10, Jonty, that's happened that we need to go over? There seems to be one big focus in everyone's minds at the moment.
Nothing in top 10, but there is something else I was reminded of. A certain little bit of team radio, which I'm sure we'll hear a lot of in next year's Drive to Survive series, if they do one. One, Gunther Steiner laying a full-on verbal smackdown on Magnussen. That was a serious shut up, get on with your job. And it was great to hear. It really was. Yes, we hear the drivers complain every now and then, and it's very stressful in the car. But when they go too much, you rarely hear them told to shut up. But he was very much told to shut up. It was brilliant.
Okay, Kevin Magnussen's line was, "This is the worst experience I've ever had in any car ever." His engineer then came over all calm, like, well, let's not forget the lads and that were all up all night fixing your car, and then interrupting the pair of them was Gunther Steiner with, "Shut your face, you ungrateful sod, and get on with it." Not in those words, but effectively what he was basically saying. Look, he's emotional, he's angry, he's frustrated, but his mechanics have rebuilt a car that he smashed up. If he wasn't happy about, he's having the worst experience of his life, but that's because he put his car in the wall in qualifying, and then his team have stayed up all night to build that car and get it repaired so he can go racing, and he's bitching about it. So I completely agree with Gunther Steiner's response, to be honest, to that, and I'd like to hear the unedited version. I don't know if there is an edited version, but if anyone's seen Drive to Survive, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have, then you'll know that he's not afraid to drop the odd F-bomb and whatnot, but no need to be kicking off like that at your team, is there, Dan? If you're annoyed, get back in the garage, sit down and go, "Oh, that's a bit crap, wasn't it?" But not over team radio for the world to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And earlier on in the race, when Grosjean had a bit of a ding-dong with Perez and Grosjean was moaning, I was thinking, oh, not again, Roman. Stop moaning. And then when Kevin said his little thing later, I thought, oh my God, Roman, you're actually in a good light for once. They're having to go at the golden child instead. So, yeah, that was crazy to see. Magnussen's been so consistent over the last couple of seasons. That was so, I was going to say, unlike his character. He can be a bit fiery, can't he? But yeah. To be honest, yeah, not a good day for Haas at all. And Magnussen, he shouldn't have said those comments. However, being outraced by George Russell, I'm sure, is not very nice. So I'll leave it there.
I'd imagine being outraced by Romain Grosjean is pretty painful as well. Probably more so than being outraced by George Russell. I'm sorry, Dan.
I lost you a bit.
On Discord. Possibly Discord playing. I think Dan was going a bit robotic there. I have lost my voice connection over on there, so I will have to keep chittering to myself whilst I try and sort that one out. But I'm just looking through the order now. I think nobody else will hear me now, but I was just looking through the order there. What happened to Carlos Sainz?
He stopped really early, didn't he? I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just did the one stopper. So I think his tyres just ran out at the end. But a good race from him, to be honest, considering.
Yeah, Sainz had to stop early because he had debris from Albon's wing. Or was it Kvyat's wing? At turn 1. In his brake duct. Yeah, and he had debris from that in his brake duct, so he had to stop early. It kind of ruined his race because I thought maybe he could spend the next few laps absolutely banzai clear air and make it up at the stops, but it didn't really work out, unfortunately.
Just super quickly again, looking at this order, Alfa Romeo, no pace again this weekend really. Giovinazzi had his spin, Raikkonen nothing in qualifying, didn't have much to offer in the race. Obviously in the debrief tomorrow I'll be able to look at all the team quotes and get the information together, so they might have a reason behind that, but they are not where I expected them to be at all, Jonty. I thought they'd be in that fight with Renault and co for the top 4 at the moment. They look quite a way off that.
Yeah, I mean, we were all expecting great things from them this year, especially after the massive improvements we saw throughout last year. And they were great for the first 2 races, and now they've kind of done... Well, they haven't just stopped, they've gone backwards. It's kind of worrying.
I'm going to upset a certain fan base with this one, I think. Robert Kubica was 50... I'll try to do quick maths. 53 seconds behind teammate George Russell. Both stopped the same number of times. Lap time wise, his best was a 17.285. Russell is... no, that's not right. Russell a 17.241. So not all that different in terms of their pace in that respect, but that is a big gap. That is a big gap, Dan, back to Kubica. And I'm going to ask the question before I get myself in trouble. Have I missed something? Did something happen to Kubica in that race? Or was he just absolutely smashed today by George Russell?
I can't remember anything.
He was fairly beaten quite soundly, unfortunately. I do feel a bit sorry for him. I was super hyped for the return and the fairy story of it, but as the races have proven, he just hasn't got it. He's lost something.
There are those that say that there's favouritism at Williams, that he's got the worst chassis out of the 2 of them, but my counter-argument to that is they've swapped chassis already this season, at least twice, because they swapped them in Baku, didn't they? And they swapped it before that too, so I don't think that's it, and I don't think there's favouritism. I just think Russell's turned up and he's getting his job done, and I hope Kubica can find it. He's been away a long time, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really has, and the cars have changed quite a lot. They drive so differently now, especially with the changes to the power units. They're a whole different animal. I just don't think he can get it. But as people have said in the chat, not the worst performance of the weekend, in my opinion.
No?
That's probably Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi was throwing it off all over the place, completely by himself. At least Kubica was keeping it on track.
I'm surprised you've said that. I was actually fairly impressed with Giovinazzi this weekend. I think it was the first time I think he's comfortably beaten Kimi.
In quali, yeah.
Well, in the race he finished ahead of him as well, right? Despite the mistakes.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So
it wasn't a clean weekend.
No, yeah, and he needs to improve. But I think, Kubica, especially with Latifi this weekend, as close to Russell as he was in practice. I know it's practice, but that's added pressure as well. But I'm surprised you said about Giovinazzi there, Jonty.
Yeah, it was just how he was in the race. He just didn't seem to have any control in the car at all. It was really, really bizarre.
Cassetti in chat says Kimi pitted in on lap 60, was in front of Gio before that. Kimi did stop twice and Giovinazzi once, so that would explain that. And he was only 2.1 behind, so that'll be why. So that explains that one, Dan. There we go. I've just dropped you in it now, mate. I do want to read something. I'm going to get to driver of the day in a minute, but I do just want to read something. It's a quote from Sebastian Vettel. This was tweeted by Philip Horton. Quote, "We all sound like lawyers and using official language. Ultimately, it's not the sport I fell in love with when I was watching." I wonder if that might stir up some rumours after this one about his future. They were already in the air anyway. He dismissed them this weekend and he looked like a man, Matt. I think when he goes away, he settles down, it'll all blow over in the end for him, but not a happy guy at the moment. But we'll driver of the day. I probably should have put slow mode on for this, so I'm going to get told off by the mods now. But in chat, one surname. I'll start with you, Dan. We'll go alphabetically. Why not? I can do the alphabet today. I'm not good at maths, but I can do the alphabet. Who was your driver of the day, mate?
You know what? I was really impressed with Daniel Ricciardo. Yes, he went backwards overall in the race, but I tell you what, and even his defending was a little bit on edge, but holding Bottas behind him for so long and Verstappen and still bringing that car home in P6. For me, I was just super thrilled to see him at one with the car, confident. But again, the obvious other one, Stroll, also brilliant job, and Vettel as well, apart from that mistake. But I'll leave you two to talk about those if you pick those.
Jonty?
It's hard not to say Stroll for the race, but I think there should be a special honourable mention for Danny Rick's qualifying.
Maybe driver of the weekend for Danny Rick, maybe. Or driver of the day for Saturday. Verstappen, really good drive back to 5th place. Vettel drove well till the mistake, but I think, penalty aside with that mistake, that takes me away from saying him. I agree, Ricciardo really good all weekend. I'll go Stroll for now. I'll have a proper look at things tomorrow, but for this stream, I'll go with Stroll. I think he was brilliant. 17th, I think I said, to 9th place with the old spec engine in as well. So I think really good drive from Lance Stroll. Apologies, by the way, if any of the tables on the right that are scrolling are wrong. I took the constructors one down because it's just updated. They were half completed when I filled them out and I didn't realise, and now they've completed in full on the website. So apologies for that. So probably ignore the drivers and the constructors, but you can see those in the debrief. Tomorrow, I'll take a couple of comments from over on Twitter, and then I'll take some of yours from in chat as well for driver of the day. A lot of people seem to be saying Lance Stroll, which is nice to see. He gets a lot of stick, as old Stroll, or young Stroll, I should say. He's a lot younger than me. I'll have to try. I might take a minute just scrolling through here to try and skip through some of the questionable language that drops in here. Ricardo for driver of the day says Lewis. Jack, Ricardo drove a very good race. Kvyat drove an excellent race, but Stroll might have it for me. Memes aside, Stroll, says Dylan. F1 noob, I've massively criticised him in the past, but this win was taken away from him, Vettel, all day long. Let's have another scroll down a bit further down. Nico and Laughter gave us gave us a 3-word race reaction. Sebastian Vettel won. Same as everyone else, Vettel deserves it after that penalty, says Davey. Sebastian and no words for the FIA, says Dominic. Shout outs to Stroll and Ricciardo, says Cameron McRae. Red G, one of my 2 least favourite drivers for driver of the day, Sebastian Vettel or Lance Stroll. Vettel all day. Couple more, super quickly. Trevor says Stroll. A couple saying the stewards, which is expected after that one. And most people seem to be going with Stroll and Vettel. A couple for Ricciardo that are agreeing with you there. So Jonty, so that's good to see. But pretty much Vettel and Stroll seem to be dominating that one, which is fair enough. Chats, just look across and Daniel Clark puts Gasly. Nah. Not by a long way. He needs to step up. He really needs to step up. But more on that at some point when we get onto that series that I mentioned that will start before France. Let's have a look then. Stroll says a lot of people, actually, to be fair. Connor says Kvyat, Nick Stroll, Jose Rick. Ricardo, Stroll says Simba. Ericsson, of course, says Frozen. Just haven't seen anybody say somebody different. Leclerc says Matthew. Josh thinks Ricardo. Yes, it seems to be pretty clear. Max Verstappen, a couple saying as well, like I say, definitely deserves to be in the mention. But yeah. Let's have a look at some of your comments then and your questions. Do super chats in a second as well, but I've seen this one go through. I did actually screenshot it, Range, but thank you for asking me to remind me because I will have forgotten. It says, in the end, Vettel made the mistake that caused him to be in that situation. Yes, the penalty was wrong in some aspects, but as soon as we don't enforce it, the rules become obsolete. I think, like I said at the start, I think we need to look at the wording of the rule for situations like that when a driver. Vettel, not a lot he can do in that situation, but I completely agree. I said it right at the start. At the end of the day, he's made the mistake and put himself in that situation. And that's why we're in the position we're in. But it was a nonsense penalty. But I understand what people are saying with the whole rules is rules things, and we've got to follow them. I can completely understand people's point of view on that. I don't agree, but that's what is it? What's the saying, Jonty? Opinions are like noses, or something like that. I think Martin Brundle says a lot.
Everyone's got one and they all smell.
Yeah,
pretty much. So,
I think you added something extra there, Jonty.
Okay. Anyway, so a couple more super chats. Not be able to react to all of them or answer more, but I will have a quick read through of them. I'm just going to use your first 4 letters on that name because I'm not quite sure I can go for that one without insulting you. But Mup says Formula 1 died with Charlie Whiting. Controversial opinion there. Big E, thank you very much for your contribution, mate. He is a patron as well. Stop giving me your money. No, I'm joking. The utter lack of consistency in rulings is one of the reasons F1 suffers in the States. I would love to see steward fan debriefs and other ways to make FIA officials more accountable. PS, love the new splashes and promos. Yo, Borny, thank you very much for your contribution. Chalky says, if Ferrari double stacks, Charles jumps Lewis. Ooh. And April Kurt says nothing. Sorry, just scrolling down. I thought you had a comment there, but thank you very much for your contribution as well. That's an interesting one, Jonty. If Ferrari have double stacked them, maybe they'd have got the jump.
Well,
maybe.
That's another element. When we saw the stops happening, and then they told both Ferrari drivers they were going to Plan B, and then decided not to with Charles, which I don't get it.
Yeah,
if they just kept on what they were doing, you have to react to the other team. If you don't go first, you've got to react, and they didn't again. Now, that's 2 decisions within one race on top of everything that's happened this year, where they just hung Leclerc out to dry. There have been rumours, you've probably all read about them floating around, that he wants to get out already, and there's discussions about contracts and all the rest of it. It's very hard not to believe them.
That'll get people talking. What I will say, actually, though, and I know I'm talking here before anybody starts that one. I know I'm kind of starting with the ifs and buts and the speculation and looking at what could have happened. I'm as guilty as everybody, and it does kind of annoy me. So I'm apologies if it annoys you. But if Leclerc, they get the strategy right and Leclerc jumps Hamilton, Vettel then isn't going to be under the pressure that he's under from Hamilton. He then doesn't make the mistake and Ferrari win the race. Just throwing that out there, Dan. You know how I like to do it to trigger people.
Yeah. If my memory serves me correct, and for the first time in a long time, I'm going to defend Ferrari, I think if they would have double stacked, Leclerc would have then been stuck behind Bottas and Verstappen. Because I think when Vettel came out, he only just got in front of them, didn't he? So I think that's why they left him out so long. But even so, I agree with you, Jonty. I don't know why they decided to go to Plan B. And even at the end, they should have told him about the penalty. It seems to be there's some sort of bias at Ferrari. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt this time, which is rare for me, I've got to say.
Apologies for coughing over you there, Dan. I know how much that really annoyed you when we recorded the Christmas thing we did. But yeah, apologies for that. We're gonna leave this part there because we don't stream very often. I'm going to take a couple of questions in just a moment. So if you are disappearing because you just came for the reaction, thank you very much for popping along. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a like on the video as well before you disappear. That'd be massively appreciated. And I will be back tomorrow with the debrief for the race, which is a bit more of an in-depth look. If you know. Bit better than Monaco as well. I won't rush record it tonight. I will record it tomorrow. So yes, that'll be out tomorrow. But before I do move on to the questions, a lad, an awesome lad, Alex Baldwin. aka Alex Afro. He's been on the channel a few times before. Really nice lad. He's been working on a documentary called Dream Chaser for a long time, really, really long time, and it's a fantastic watch. I watched it the other day, and I really, really do urge that if you are a racing fan and you want to watch and you want to see somebody try to get behind the wheel for the first time, please do go check it out. There's a link in the description, and just for you now, here is a little teaser trailer.
I'm Alex Baldwin, and I want to know how hard it is to follow your dreams. Since I was young, motorsport has been a huge part of my life. I have immersed myself within the sport, but I've never had the opportunity to race competitively. In 3 months' time, I'm hoping to race in an endurance club event in a BMW 3 Series. But before I race, there are many things I need to overcome. These challenges will test me to my limit and question whether the effort will be worth achieving a life's ambition.
Yep, there we go. Thank you for watching that. Do go give it a watch. It's really, really good. Fantastic watch. And yeah, some emotion in it as well. So awesome stuff from Alex. But yeah, we'll take a couple of your questions before moving on. So I'll move the chat box over so we can actually see what's going on. I will say as well, by the way, a little bit of a different format, if you like, to the race reaction. And by different, I mean I've taken it back. You're going to notice on the channel over the next few weeks and months that things are going back to what they were, because I went back into my stupid, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but then decide to try and fix it anyway and completely cock it up and then spend all your time trying to repair it. So you will notice a few differences, but it's basically going back to what we're doing. So just literally reaction in this one, then a proper look during the debrief tomorrow. Where would Leclerc go if he leaves Ferrari? That one's for you, Jonty, after you threw that hand grenade out there, mate. From Findlay D30. Does feel like that, doesn't it? But yeah, it's don't know. The rumour was that after Monaco, and it is only a rumour, but the rumour was that some top teams were looking at him after they got wind of the fact he wasn't very happy. So yeah, I think a lot of questions coming in are about, speculating about who's going to be where. Dan the Indoor Man, do you think Kubica will finish the season? I have a feeling Latifi might finish out the season. I thought he would. I think we had audio issues with you, Jonty, so apologies, mate. But yeah, we'll just gloss over that. Pretend it didn't happen, chat. Jonty was just saying, no, Leclerc will never leave. Do you want to answer that again, Jonty? Yeah, you are, mate. Do you want to answer that one again, just in case? Because I heard you. I don't know why they didn't, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's all just rumours at this stage, but every race it seems like Ferrari do something just a little bit more to add weight to the rumours. And is there really anywhere for him to go? Maybe take that Gasly spot with all of the rumours again about him. You never know.
Yeah, Dan the Indoor Man was saying, sorry about that, everybody. Do you think Kubica will finish the season? I have a feeling Latifi might be in. I thought he'd probably see out the season at the start of the year, because I said if Williams didn't think he could do it and he didn't think he would do it, he wouldn't be in that car. But you have to say, the way he's being pretty much well beaten by Russell at the minute, Dan, he could be under pressure. But what I would say is Williams are not threatening anybody above them, and they can't get any lower than they are. So his experience behind the scenes could be absolutely massive for them going forward. So he might still see out the season, even if it's just for that reason. But he needs to find some pace and at least get somewhere near Russell now.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the similar sort of lines. It seems, I don't want to say pointless to get rid of him, because in theory, Latifi could gain some experience, a bit like Russell is at the moment. He's not fighting for points, but in situations like Monaco, he can at least gain that Formula 1 experience. So you could argue maybe he's clogging up a seat, but I think if I'm honest, I think they'll keep Kubica. Like you say, he's got that experience The story is brilliant, which I suppose is a marketing thing at the end of the day, which Williams can use. But it wouldn't really surprise me either way because, yeah, you're right. He isn't quick enough, and that is the bottom line.
Yeah, a few people pointing out Latifi doesn't have enough super license points, but he'll soon get them ones. That's not a problem. Couple more before we disappear. I'm just having to scroll back through all the people saying, Sean, we can't hear Jonty. He's disappeared and we don't know why. I could do, actually. Lewis just saying there in chat for Driver Day, could you do a straw poll in future? That might be something for the reaction streams, and we could look at it at the end, couldn't we? That's not a bad idea at all. What's worse, the penalty today or Spa 2008, says Toro Loco? That's a good question. Well, Vettel will say today and Hamilton will say Spa, so I can answer that on their behalf. That's a good question, actually. I mean, the problem is I'm going to say today because it's fresh, it's raw, it's just happened. That was 11 years ago, but I remember at the time there was a lot of controversy around that. A lot of people weren't happy, and Hamilton was absolutely freaking livid. It's probably the only way to put it, Jonty, after that one. In fact, it still hurts him, doesn't it, today? It still annoys him, that decision.
Yeah, it really does. But I don't see them as similar situations because there was specific set regs about where to go if you miss a chicane in place. So, and he definitely gained more of an advantage in that situation.
Roman. It's all Roman on this channel. Says, who had problems with F1 TV stream? ? I'm sure there'll be a few in chat that'll answer you that one, mate. Disgusting that that's still not working, really. But what I will say on F1 TV is at least they're quite happy to, or not happy, but they're willing to pay people back for the fee they're paying to watch F1 and not being able to watch F1. So I think, yeah, that's got to get sorted and needs to be sorted quickly. I just want to say on TV direction in general, it felt a little bit better today. I don't know if that's because there was actually action at the front of the grid, so we weren't worried too much about the midfield. But what I will say is it did seem to take forever for replays to crop up. The Norris one took forever before we saw what was going on. The Giovinazzi one for his lap 37 spin was shown on about lap 42, 43. So there's still work to be done. Definitely Jonty on that one, but it did feel better this time round.
Yeah, they have cleaned up a lot of the direction, but mentioning the F1 TV, I received a lot of tweets saying it's not working, which is just not wrong. Not right, sorry. Mouth's not working, it's late. Especially when it's the first two laps. I mean, that's seriously bad. That's always going to be the most exciting bit. The first two and the last two, usually.
Yeah, Diz said started working around lap 20, which, is bad in Canada, but at least there was something happening after that. If you get races like China, that's it, innit? Your race is done, for example. So, yeah, it's frustrating. They've got to sort it. I want to really quickly, couple of questions. We'll try and answer them as quickly as we can as well, because it is getting late now and people need to be off to work and whatnot tomorrow. So, James Howe says, should F1 put in a joker as a penalty? I like that idea. Is it MotoGP that are doing that one? With the longer lap penalty. I think that's quite a good idea, but I'm not sure if that's something that... I mean, it would work in Formula 1, but it's whether... I'm not sure the FIA would be keen, and I'm not quite sure why. It just doesn't strike me as an FIA thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's quite difficult. The beauty with MotoGP is that wherever they're doing it, they can just stick literally a 2-foot wide bit of tarmac somewhere, and that's your penalty lap. It's a lot more difficult with F1, and there are at least 6-7 tracks where it's literally impossible. So that makes it difficult.
Chile making the point there I was just going to make, and I think you've just kind of said it there as well, Jonty. Where would it go in Monaco? This, Bahrain shouldn't be a problem. China, not a problem, but China could go at the hairpin, couldn't it? That little bit of extra runoff all the way down there, but then Monaco, it can't happen. So that's going to breed inconsistency in the penalties again. So yeah, it's a good idea. I do like the idea, but I'm not really sure that'll go down that route. One more super quickly. I'm going to try and find one that isn't penalty related. Let's go with that one from Sue K. says, is Renault threatening Red Bull? That's an easy one for me to answer. I'm going to say no. I don't think that I tell you what, if they get their act together, Renault, they might be able to threaten Gasly, but I don't think they'll have enough between them to threaten Verstappen. So I'm going to say no on that one. One swallow doesn't make a summer and all of that. But if they can step it up, Dan, they could certainly give Gasly something to think about and be looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, I agree. I'm still a little bit tentative after their somewhat shocking performances they've had this season, and reliability doesn't seem great. But yeah, a big step up this weekend. Red Bull, I think, is a little bit too far of a push.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there. A couple of people look to be joining late. Paul saying talk about Gasly's performance. We've already done it. Did it quite a while ago. I don't think any of us were overly impressed at all with Gasly's performance today. It was an opportunity for him, and he didn't deliver when he needed to. So, yeah, I think there might be some more question marks that crop about him over the coming weeks, but I think you'll see out the season, as I said earlier. But we'll leave it there, Jonty. I know it's late, mate, and you've got work tomorrow, but thank you very much for coming along for this one. I think you kind of had to, really, didn't you? Get that off your chest.
Yeah, and I think you can hear us all calming down throughout the stream, but I can leave you with something that's not F1 related. That'll cheer you up a little and a few people up at the end of this. As you know, E3 is going on, and apart from the next Xbox Project Scarlet, which has been announced for holiday Christmas next year,
Fallout 5.
The next big Forza update is Lego Forza Horizon. That's going to be so much fun. I think we can all look forward to that. Forget the F1, that's my summer.
Where's that take my money gif? Take my money now. Yes. I'm up for that one. F1 2019 as well, coming out soon. Wink.
Yeah, a couple of months early.
Yeah, what? 2 weeks away now? Interesting one. And thank you very much as well, Dan, for coming along, mate. Thank you for being the only one that didn't swear. Keeping it family friendly.
Come on,
yes,
say poo.
Flipping Nora.
Yeah, it's been fun, hasn't it? I was going to say very controversial, but I'm surprised how many people agree, and I'm glad we all agree. Blimey, it's getting late, isn't it? Agree. So thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries at all. And I'll talk to you both soon, I'm sure. But thank you very much for coming along. Yep, thank you very much to Jonty and, of course, to Dan. And thank you to you guys for coming along. Over nearly 2,500 at one point, so massive thank you if you tuned in. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new and drop a like on the video. That would be massively appreciated. It helps the channel out, helps me out, and that would be absolutely awesome. I will be back tomorrow with a proper in-depth, well, not in-depth, but a bit more detailed look at the race and some of the reaction from it in the debrief, some team reaction and whatnot. I'll go through all the teams and drivers if you are new, so we'll go through that one then. You can also follow me over on social media. I'll retweet if we get any more news on any of the other stuff that's hanging around the sport, or the possible penalties, which I don't think we'll see, but possible penalties that could still happen. So make sure you follow me over on social media. The links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course the Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.